Hi, I'm Tim Fembert with LeaderGov.
Hi, I'm Bill Stark. Welcome.
Hope you're having a great day. Listen, we have a fantastic topic today, and it's going to be about conflict. And we know we all have to deal with conflict in different ways. And as a leader, we're going to talk about your role in conflict, specifically with subtle conflict that's on your team. And Bill, conflict is a good thing. Teams perform their best when there is some level of conflict happening. If we've ever been in a meeting where there's no conflict, it's pretty boring. We want to encourage, or we'd like to see some level of conflict. But the subtle conflict is really important that we are paying attention as leaders. We have high awareness level so that we can kind of anticipate where things could go wrong. And so today we're going to kind of break down some of those subtle conflict areas.
Yeah, and once you're aware of these subtleties that are happening right underneath your nose, we want to talk about how you can approach your employees or employee about it. So there's some things that you may be aware of or may not be aware of on your team that are going on right now. You might notice sometimes people making kind of snide comments. So if someone comes into a meeting 10 minutes late, you might notice a coworker lean over and say, yeah, she's always comes in late. She's a terrible worker. And they're making these comments to each other, and you're kind of overhearing it, perhaps, or you're kind of seeing it happen. And that's a very subtle form of conflict. It's definitely can create tension on a team if it continues. You often will notice people bully other people with their big ideas or their big voice or even big personality. And when people do that, it basically shuts down the rest of the team. It causes tension. I don't want to engage this person. They're being obnoxious. And so it creates a kind of tension. We're not really talking about so much as open conflict as more tension. And what happens is this tension builds. That's the problem. It doesn't go down normally. It goes up. The other thing that people sometimes do is they're sort of passive aggressive, where in a meeting they might be kind of nice, they might get along, go along to get along, be quiet, maybe not participate, and then out in the hallway 10 minutes later, they're up at a 10 on the Richter scale, with one of their friends talking about how Sally always does this in the meetings. So that's what we call passive aggressive. They're passive in the meetings. They're aggressive when they're around their friends and feel like they can, say what they want. Another sort of form of, something very subtle that you should keep an eye out for is when people are being left out of the conversation or when people are choosing to not speak. And usually there's a reason why people are being alienated. And that's kind of what we're talking about here is this where the team is sort of alienating a particular member. Again, nothing is said. No dish is being thrown. It's not overt conflict. It's very subtle. People are being ignored or alienated. These are all kind of subtle forms of conflict, and we really don't want these to go unaddressed on the team. They seem simple. They seem small. You can brush them under the carpet, which many leaders do, but we're saying today we need to do something about it.
So the question is, what do we do about it, right? That's the magic question. And, the answer is, number one, it's based on your relationship with the individuals and your ability to have those frank conversations with them and find out what's underneath it. Outside of every action, there's probably something underneath that they've acted on. Now, some of that may just be their personality tendency. So if you know their disc style, you may know that they may have this tendency, but when you see it flare up in this kind of subtle way, you need to know what's underneath that. So you need to approach that person and find out what's going on. The other thing you can do is talk to the other party, maybe the affected party, and start to maybe educate them a little bit about the person that was offending them and maybe what was their motivation behind it, what was their why, so they can have a better understanding. So you have to play a little bit of a mediator is your role as a leader. But as Bill said, you just can't let those things go unaddressed. You've got to get in the middle of those things. You don't want to blow up something that's minor, right, because then your team's going to kind of pull back. They won't have conflict. Mm-hmm. And remember, we said on the onset that we want conflict. But you've just got to kind of find that balance point. And when it starts to tip over, particularly these subtle issues, you've got to be there to respond.
Yeah, it's sort of, the word mean-spirited comes to mind for me. When people are being mean-spirited and sort of personal, that's when we know this just isn't appropriate. It's not necessarily their personality. It's more just being inappropriate. And I would just reiterate, Tim, what you just said. It's very simple what you say to your employee. I noticed that you were being kind of snide and a little rude today with Bob. I noticed that. What's going on? That's all you have to say. I noticed this. What's going on? And then just pause and let them talk. We've got to air these things out. And the sooner you do that as a leader, the healthier team's going to be. I
think too, Bill, being able to relate that behavior to how it's affecting the team can be very positive. Mm-hmm. If you can say, hey, that comment that you made in the meeting really kind of shut the entire team down. You probably didn't notice it, but it really just took all the air out of the room. And from that point forward, no one else was willing to say anything about it. So, just kind of pointing out those things in a very positive way and relating it to the team can be very powerful.
Yeah, when I think about what does it mean to be a leader, Tim, I think about this kind of topic a lot because what we're asking people to do today is to lean into difficulty. If you're not a leader, you're not going to lean into difficulty. You're not going to sort of address these things in a proactive way. You're going to just ease back. You're going to pull back. And leaders don't do that. Leaders lean forward. They push into situations in an appropriate way. There's a time and a way to do all this. But as a leader, what you've signed up for is to lean in and to take action and to be an intercessor. The other thing, Tim, I wanted to mention is this idea of helping these relationships get connected is a little bit like this servant leadership idea of being a healer. So in servant leadership, there are 10 pillars, and they're all about me serving other people. And one of the attributes of being a servant leader is this idea of me being a healer. And it's not really a physical healing necessarily. It's more of a relational type of healing. So I see that there is a conflict, tension between two people, and as a leader, I can step in and I can bring about healing or restoration to those relationships. And wow, when you get to that place as a leader, you're in a whole nother stratosphere of your ability to lead a team well. People will respect you for stepping in and taking action on their behalf.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this video and watching us talk about conflict and this subtle conflict and really how it can really hurt your team and the actions you can take as a leader to kind of head some of that off. So thank you so much. Of course, you can find us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're out there. We got lots of great information on leadership topics for local city and government leaders. Let us know if we can help you in any way. We love doing professional developments, the work we do. If we can help your team, please let us know.
Yep. Have a great day. See you next week.
Thank you so much.